One of the most unsettling secrets in the world is concealed at the University of Castile-La Mancha. Prepare yourself for a terrifying encounter with the spectral nun who has been roving the corridors of this old institution for generations. She has been known to haunt the building, whether it be via sightings by students and professors or through spine-tingling encounters in the dead of night. The ghost of the nun at the University of Castile-La Mancha has established a legend that continues to send chills down the spines of all those who dare to wander its ghostly hallways. The University of Castile-La Mancha, UCLM, is a prestigious educational establishment that has a long and illustrious history that dates back several centuries. It is situated in the very center of Spain. The institution is well known for its breathtaking architecture and thriving academic community, and it is located in the scenic city of Ciudad Real. On the other hand, hidden under its placid exterior is a shady mystery that has captivated students, staff, and residents alike for many years. On the campus, there are a number of locations where individuals claim that they have seen ghosts. There are tales that the building that formerly housed the convent is haunted by nuns, and one of the locations is the office of the president of the university. This is the building where the convent was located. The fact that the University of Castile-La Mancha has a historical tie to a convent that was formerly in operation is one of the most fascinating characteristics of the institution. It was previously a refuge for nuns, offering a safe haven for devoted women who were looking for spiritual enlightenment. The structure that presently houses the university was once a sanctuary for nuns. Over the course of many years, the convent evolved into an educational establishment while preserving some of the religious traditions that it had been known for. It is reported that the spectral nun may be seen wandering about inside the confines of this renovated convent, and that her spectral presence can be felt by anybody who comes into contact with her. Numerous persons have claimed odd sightings and experiences with the spectral nun throughout the course of the years. These encounters have been unable to be explained. Some students have reported hearing faint footsteps echoing through the empty halls, which was followed by an overpowering sensation of fear. Some individuals say that they seen a shadowy person clothed in religious gear, with her face concealed by a veil that seemed to be ghostly. Many people are left wondering about the borders that exist between the living and the dead as a result of these unsettling reports, which have only helped to deepen the mystery that surrounds the ghost of the nun. Individuals claim that they have seen odd figures moving around the corridors of the structure. There are other tales of doors that seem to open and shut on their own without any human intervention. The truth of the nuns' haunting at the University of Castile-La Mancha continues to be a mystery, despite the fact that there are innumerable legends and anecdotes surrounding the ghost of the nun working there. Could it be that she is nothing more than a fiction of the mind, a result of widespread superstition and social anxiety? Another possibility is that there is something more nefarious going on inside the confines of the institution. It is possible that we may never be able to discover the actual roots of this spectral presence. But there is one thing that is absolute. Her legacy continues to fascinate and scare everyone who comes into contact with her. A living testimony to the continuing power of legend and the human curiosity with the unknown, the ghost of the nun is a tribute to both of these things. Her ghostly presence will continue to haunt the halls of the University of Castile-La Mancha for as long as the university continues to exist. She will always serve as a constant reminder of the thin barrier that divides the living from the dead. Zugarramurdi is a town near the French border, surrounded by a large green meadow where the cows peacefully graze. Zugarramurdi is a small village in the Navarre region of Zareta. It has 250 inhabitants right now, and is famous for a few things, like its beautiful pine and chestnut trees and a cave that was carved out by water. However, the village is most famous for some sad and dark events that happened there in the 17th century. As a result of these occurrences, 50 individuals were condemned to death for witchcraft by the court of the Inquisition. Because of witchcraft issues in labored land, the lords of Urtubi Alzate and Saint-Père urgently petitioned King Henry IV of France for assistance in 1608. Then a Zugarramurdi lady shared a dream in which she saw members of the community covening in a nearby cave. The abbot of Urdax sought assistance from the Logrono court of the Holy Inquisition after her dream. An inquisitor, Juan Valle Alvarado, was sent to investigate the region. Following the hearing of several remarks and grievances, the inquisitor first levied charges against over 300 individuals. Roughly 40 of the accused were deemed suspect and sent to Logrono jail. Their cases were subsequently heard in the renowned Logrono process, which attracted attention from throughout the world, even outside the boundaries of Spain and France. A total of 29 defendants were found guilty in June 1610 by the court. While 6 individuals were put to death for resisting, 18 were pardoned at the Act of Faith, auto da fe, that took place in Logrono on November 7th and 8th, 1610, as a result of their confessions of wrongdoing and pleas for compassion from the court. Since 5 further individuals had previously passed away while incarcerated, 5 statuettes depicting them were set ablaze. On Sunday, November 7th, 1610, the Act of Faith drew some 30,000 individuals. A large portion of them were French. 1,000 individuals, including members of several religious orders, commissioners, notaries of the Inquisition, and relatives of the accused, formed the procession that started the 1610 Act of Faith at Logrono. 20 penitents standing further back in line, each had a light in their hand. 6 of them had a rope over their necks, suggesting they ought to be flogged. Following this, the pardoned people wore cumbersome corosas, pointed caps, and sanbenitos, a garment resembling a scapular. Afterwards, 5 individuals materialized, each bearing a statue of one of the 5 inmates who had passed away while incarcerated, as well as the matching caskets housing their corpses. 2 men and 4 ladies, all dressed in the traditional sanbenitos, but with black ones to represent the impending death penalty for heresy, followed. The procession was completed by a donkey bearing the coffin with the judgments, 3 inquisitors from the Logrono court atop horses, and 4 secretaries of the Inquisition. A Dominican inquisitor gave the sermon once everyone had settled into their seats, and the inquisitorial secretaries had begun reading the sentences. Due to the length of the reading, the Act of Faith was postponed until Monday, November 8. As a result of the harsh punishments meted out to the witches of Zugarramurdi, the Spanish Inquisition gained notoriety for its most savage approach to combating witchcraft. The Orabadilla River carved up a natural passageway through the ground thousands of years ago. The cavern it carved out is symmetrical from the northeast to the southwest, and its dimensions are 120 meters, 393.7 feet, in length, 2226 meters, 72.285.3 feet, in breadth at the eastern end, and 1239.4 feet in width at the western end, averaging 1012 meters, 32.839.4 feet. In height, the cave has 2 lofty halls. Sorganin Lazia, also known as the Cave of the Witches, in its original language of Euskera, is a stunning cavern surrounded by verdant scenery. The Gutter of Hell, Infernuco Erica, is the name of the major gallery. On top of everything else, the word coven, from the Spanish aquelarre, comes from the town of Zugarramurdi, where a meadow known as Aquelarre, or Field of the Goat, is next to the cave. A museum devoted to the history of the Holy Inquisition and witchcraft has been open to the public in the city since 2007. Arranged by the Witch Museum, which is located in the former Hamlet Hospital, are guided tours of the renowned cavern. Witches' Day, a yearly celebration that has taken place in the museum since its establishment, also features the museum prominently. In addition to these exhibits, the museum paints a stunning picture of 17th century Navarian life, complete with myths and tales. Historical figures from Zugarramurdi's history may be honored at the Witch Museum, which is open to both locals and visitors. In the magical country of Magos and Tardos, ancient trees weave a rich green hue reminiscent of Galician folklore. This is our destination, a woods of unbelievable but genuine tales. If we go into Galicia's dark woodlands, where sunlight hasn't touched the grass in years and 1,000 eyes watch us from the unknown, we may encounter the terrible Alariz werewolf case. Manuel Blanco Romasanta is Spain's first serial murderer. His unusual methods of murder and his fervent belief that he was a werewolf immediately made this case famous. Who was Alariz's werewolf? The tale of the Galician lycanthrope must be traced to the early 19th century. In 1809, Manuel Blanco Romasanta was born in Regueiro, a tiny Ourense town. Romasanta's birth certificate read, Manuela, the female counterpart of Manuel, sparking gender conflicts. The youngster had mixed sexual features, so parents thought he was a female. We are undoubtedly talking about an intersexual individual, but it was the 19th century and they didn't have the means to label it. We will assume Manuel spent much of his life as a guy, despite being born female, because we cannot question them. Romasanta measured 1.37 meters. He was pleasant and blonde, fitting in well with society. His reading and writing skills were rare at the time. His neighbors received letters and papers from him. We'll see how he used that talent to hide his misdeeds. Manuel married Francisca Gomez Vázquez. Tragically, she died shortly. This may have turned Alariz's werewolf, but we don't know. Romasanta quit his tailor profession and became a hawker, especially in Portugal. The next era is unclear. His commerce centered on soap and ointments. Rumors say he made them using human grease. Romasanta quietly garnered confidence from everyone around him. He guided people through Galicia's woodlands and pathways, often women with children seeking a better life. Those ships never departed, and those women and children never returned. Werewolf victims were destined to roam the forest's twisted trees forever. The Galician woodlands were the major aspect of Alariz's werewolf strategy. He confessed to going into the forest on full moon evenings and crawling behind the mountain's silver outlines to wait for his victim. Romasanta mutilated and ate their carcasses, apparently driven by wolf instincts. He underwent a gory and terrifying metamorphosis in the woods for days. Romasanta used his literacy to write letters for his victims, saying they had arrived. He wrote to his victims, claiming they were safe and had great employment in their intended destinations. Over time, the disappearances raised suspicion, rendering the letters ineffective. They also located some of the vanished people's things among Romasanta's peddlery, and the village's residents were uneasy about his ointment's provenance. Romasanta fled when his murder cover crumbled. When the Alariz werewolf stepped foot, people vanished. They seized him in Toledo in 1852 and transported him to Alariz for trial. He was mentally competent when he committed his crimes. Thus, the court held him accountable. Romasanta was the first clinical lycanthropy case. Manuel Blanco Romasanta confessed to 9 murders. We find 13 or 17 murders, depending on the source. When invited to testify, he said he became a werewolf every full moon night, sometimes for days or weeks. Romasanta carried a lunar calendar when detained. He also attributed his illness to a witch's curse. Romasanta said that the curse only lasted a few years, thus he could no longer change into a werewolf. Trial lasted almost a year, and judgment was given on April 6, 1853. The court condemned Manuel Blanco Romasanta to death by garrote. Despite all odds, the defense counsel avoided the death penalty for lack of proof, and the case was appealed to the Spanish Supreme Court. In addition, a French doctor named Mr. Phillips petitioned Isabel II to spare Romasanta's life to research his situation. Romasanta received a life sentence when the Queen granted the request. The 54-year-old Alariz werewolf died in a Ceuta jail in 1863. The documented cause of death was stomach cancer, but others believe his cellmates murdered him. It is impossible to know and conceive those evenings when this figure, enveloped by fogs and mystery, walked the purple forests of Galicia beneath the pearly rays of the moon, both ally and adversary of a beast that howled long ago. The ghost of this spooky hospital has been rumored for years. Strange events and unexplained sightings claim this hospital is haunted. The Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa in Catalonia, Spain, constructed in 1952, closed in 1997, and was abandoned until 2004, when the city chose to renovate it into a housing wing and horror movie site. Before opening the biggest TB hospital in Europe, the hospital treated Catalan patients with lung cancer, fibrosis, and the dreaded disease. Even though the disease was almost eliminated, Spain had several white plague cases in the 1950s. Trying to recover in the pure air of the La Pineda woodland near Barcelona in Llano del Buen Air, the patients died slowly and painfully. The city with the lowest TB rate in Catalonia was Terrassa. The environment of Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa was ideal for the 18-month TB rehabilitation procedure. Patients may sit outdoors on every floor's patio and breathe in the fresh air. Despite its new location, Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa was distant from the city, and patients had to be isolated from their families for months. Around 1,500 rooms divided the poorer and higher classes in the 1950s hospital. After TB patients reduced, the institution became a general hospital in 1970. Sanatoriums were formerly specialized hospitals for certain illnesses. They were generally erected in the countryside with fresh air and a healthy environment, secluded from the outside world. Sanatoriums were popular in Europe and America for TB treatment before antibiotics. It might also help patients recover from drunkenness, hysteria, and emotional weariness. Many sanatoriums were abandoned in the mid-1900s due to medical improvements and have subsequently developed a haunted reputation. At Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa, 50 nurses and nuns had to care for approximately 1,000 patients daily, some of whom required constant care. The hospital's caregivers and nurses were 25 Carmelite sisters who joined in 1954. In Catholic nations like Spain, nuns have historically cared for hospitals, sanatoriums, orphanages, and more. After 20 years, the sisters departed the hospital owing to poor administration by the proprietors. They employed novice nursing school students who typically overestimated their TB treatment skills. For years, the Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa had the most suicides in Spain. In one terrible week, 21 hospitalized patients committed themselves. The causes vary. Some couldn't bear the torture anymore. Some were psychotic or on several medications. Some were severely depressed due to their extended isolation from the world and limited interaction via phone and radio. It might possibly be because their family dropped them there and they had nowhere to go thereafter. Some elected to deteriorate in the hospital bed because they knew they would never recover. Legend has it that patients leaped from the 9th story into the garden. This garden was called the jungle because of the horrific cries before each person fell. Former Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa patients who leaped to their deaths still haunt the jungle. Legend has it that you can still hear their death cries or the painful groans and suffering of those who survived the fall. Ghosts haunt more than the 9th floor and the courtyard outside the old sanatorium. The historic church has peculiar paranormal activity, say investigators. According to tales, chapel staff and patients performed evil magic. Like many abandoned structures, others say it was used for demonic rituals. However, that has never been proven. In addition to ghosts, the old hospital is now the audiovisual park of Catalonia, a great spot to film a horror movie. Its hospital days left frightening ruins. A young guy was detained in 2004 with something nasty from the hospital. He claimed to have discovered a fetus in a formaldehyde-filled container on the 5th floor. The fetus's origin, why it was on the 5th level of Hospital del Tórax de Terrassa, and its function are unknown. Casa Encantada, or Cortijo Jurado, is a 19th-century home in ruins. It lies near Campanillas village in Malaga province, Spain, off the A357. Being one of the province's most haunted houses is well-deserved. It is estimated that the 206 square meter Cortijo estate is valued around 1.4 million euros. Malaga's influential Heredia family, one of Andalusia's wealthiest, built the residence in the 19th century. the Cortijo was created to turn the farm into a large-scale farm. It was constructed throughout the year with 365 windows, one for each day. The Jurado family bought the farm in 1925. It is also known as the Haunted Mansion in Malaga, because to its ethereal appearance and the many reports of unexplained sounds and voices. It is one of Spain's most famous haunted constructions and is considered a temple by supernaturalists. According to urban legend, the Heredia family and other affluent families in the area stole 18 21-year-old girls and tortured and killed them with demonic ceremonies. Their victims' remains are allegedly buried deep in the property where they were slaughtered. Although several young girls disappeared during this time, there was no proof linking them to the Heredia family. Some say they avoided punishment by exploiting their riches and position. No matter the facts, paranormal investigators argue that the misery and suffering behind those dismal walls has caused ghostly phenomena that cannot be explained. In 2002, the Malaga Council approved a proposal to build a 4-star hotel on the Cortijo Jurado grounds. It also required renovating the old building to provide a public cultural space. A high-profile event was held in December 2004 to get the building license. The project was formally launched when Malaga Mayor Francisco de la Torre laid the symbolic foundation stone. After 4 years, no bricks have been laid. Since then, Mirador has been sued by consumers who bought pre-construction houses that were never built. The courts froze Cortijo lands to protect liabilities of 5 million euros. The bulk of these obligations are owing to Promociones Panti, from whom Mirador received the property mortgage. Mirador also owes the Malaga Council 365,000 euros. After the initial project's construction license expired in December 2008, the Malaga Council controversially extended it. In February 2009, opposition council member Antonio Serrano, a United Left, accused the town hall of bribery and abuse of power with the Mirador Group. Serrano raised many key issues, including the town hall's failure to pay the 10% building license fee, 900,000 euros. The town hall argued that the limits had not yet taken effect when the agreement was signed. In May 2009, a Malaga court ordered the struggling property business, Mirador, to sell the property at a public auction on May 11th at the request of Promociones Panti, one of the firm's largest creditors. The auction failed due to administrative errors.